Okay, can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with a disclaimer. I'm an experimental biologist. I know next to nothing about AI other than that I think it will be useful for the kinds of things we do. So I would really like to tell you a little bit about what sorts of things we do and what we think AI will help us with. So broadly, we're interested in the problem of morphogenesis, and just some definitions, given that this is a sort of diverse audience. Morphogenesis is essentially the generation of form, and morphodynamics is refers to the changes in form as a function of time. And mechanics refers to physical parameters, including stresses, strains, and stiffness, and molecules, I guess, is sort of self-explanatory. And we look at morphogenesis in the context of the development of an animal, and in this case, the maggot of the fruit fly. And as you will see in the schematic on the left-hand side, the life of a fruit fly starts as an ellipsoid egg that is sort of a hollow structure. Okay, that's a hollow structure covered by a single sheet of cells, these gray dots are the nuclei here. And pretty much everything that happens to the egg till it sort of becomes a larva, which you will have seen inside fruits and so on, is associated with the deformation of this single sheet of cells by forming folds, by forming bends, furrows, and so on and so forth. And we're essentially interested in understanding how such changes in form that are dynamic over the course of the development of an organism are powered and how they're choreographed. And one way in which we study this is to parse this entire process into steps that we then study in detail. And here are two processes that we've tried to focus on. And I just wanted to highlight here that if you are wondering why the fruit fly is worth studying at all, I'd just like to say what I think Google said, which is that DeepMind is to AI what Drosophila is to biology, and that's sort of what has kept us interested in looking at how the fly does it, because a lot of how every other animal does it is similar. So what recent advances in microscopy have helped is to understand or visualize this process of morphogenesis in real time. And here you'll see okay, there's some delay here. Okay. You'll see every single nucleus on the surface of this animal labeled here. And you'll see that as the animal develops, you'll see that groups of cells are, clustering together, or sheets of cells are moving, in this case, backwards, or in this case, towards the center. And you'll see that there's a lot of heterogeneity, not just in the way cells behave, but also in the way groups of cells deform and reposition themselves. And so what we've been looking at is how these morphogenetic changes are brought about. And in particular, we've been interested in asking what the interplay is between molecules and forces, and how you integrate information at multiple scales, from molecules and forces to cells to cohorts or cell neighborhoods to eventually sculpt tissues. And I just want to say that the sheets of cells we're thinking about are actually mechanically connected cells that look something like this if they're very ordered. But in fact, these, as I told you, the embryo is ellipsoid, and so this sheet of cells is actually wrapped over a curved surface. So the cells actually don't really look like this, but look somewhat like that. And the way the cells sort of change their shape and move relies on the activities of intracellular proteins, notably polymers of actin and microtubules in conjunction with motor proteins. And these forces that they generate are transduced to the outer surface of the cells, the cell membranes, through their links to proteins on the plasma membrane here. And so this is broadly how cells can deform, and we're interested in asking how cellular deformation is used to sculpt tissues into different shapes, and how these how molecules and forces contribute to this. And so what is the sort of data we generate in the lab? So our work is either exploratory. We ask, okay, let's understand how this tissue moves or becomes repositioned during the course of morphogenesis. And we begin by visualizing it in an exploratory way, or we might have hypotheses and that we then try and prove or disprove. The samples that we have are animals that are going through this process in an unperturbed way, or we introduce perturbations to it that could be of a genetic nature or a mechanical nature. And our sample size, because of the time scales involved in imaging, as I will show you, is not big, or as big data would demand, but our sample sizes vary between several tens to hundreds of animals. But if we're looking at cells within tissues in an animal, we're looking at several hundred to 1,000 cells. And the sort of data we generate, of which I'll give you samples of, are high temporal spatial resolution, real-time 3D image data sets that we often view as 2D projections or as orthogonal sections to get 3D information. They're often multiply labeled, so we can look at many things at the same time. For example, the membrane and the cytoskeleton. And we can capture dynamics at multiple length and time scales. We can quantitatively analyze the dynamics of morphology, cell position, where the labels are located, and what the intensity of these labels are. So I think the data we have, although not big, is pretty rich and has high order spatial and temporal information with regards to shapes, patterns, textures, locations in neighborhoods. And we've used this sort of data effectively with theoretical physicists, originally Madan Rao at NCBS, but more recently Vijay Krishnamurthy here and Mandar Namdar at IIT Bombay, to extract physical parameters that include order, packing, coherence of groups of cells, stresses, strains, and flows. And so what I think I'd like to say is that the data we have is rich, but I think we would like to be able to better extract the rich information encoded in these images and be able to integrate data, not just from multiple samples, but also from multiple scales within the same samples. We would like to be able to discover correlated patterns, for example, patterns of cell dynamics and cytoskeletal dynamics, and then sort of use our usual approaches to test their biological relevance. So what I thought I would do is sort of give you a sample of the kind of data we generate. So here's one part of that the whole scheme of morphogenesis, which sort of results in the closure of the embryo. So you'll see an elliptical sheet here made of polygonal cells that contracts to bring the cell sheets that it's attached to close to each other, where they end up meeting in the middle and fuse, right? So this is imaging. This is 3D visualization. This is a 2D projection of a 3D data set, and we've several biological questions we're interested in understanding. But what I want to show you, if you zoom in on that elliptical region, is the sheer complexity of not just the static shapes, but also the dynamics of the shapes. And you will see that these shapes can't be described as just polygons, because over time they sort of accumulate these squiggles on their membranes and so on and so forth. So one of the things we'd really like to be able to do is to classify complex cell shapes and cellular interface dynamics. So you will see that the areas of contact between two cells can increase or decrease. What we would also like to do is to sort of be able to classify this heterogeneity in shapes in an unbiased manner, so we can work out whether these are part of a continuum or they're discrete shapes. We would also like to be able to predict some behaviors that appear stochastic to us, and understand whether the asynchrony in the dynamics of these cells actually, for example, are asynchronous, or there's some hidden pattern of communication or propagation between cells. So I think what we would like, therefore, to use AI to understand is this interrelationship between the shape dynamics of adjacent cells, and try and understand how the neighborhood influences it. So far, we've been able to do a lot of things quantitatively, but not in sort of high throughput. We can analyze the areas of cells as a function of time and define phases and pulses. We can correlate the pulsatility of the cells with the pulsatility of the cytoskeleton and signaling molecules. We can visualize with fairly high resolution the patterns of behavior of these cytoskeletal elements, but we can't. I mean, we would like to be able to use AI to uncover hidden patterns, for example, asters and changes in orientation that I think we cannot actually do a good job of. So I think what I'd probably just like to end by saying is that we would like to be able to extract data from the images we have, which we believe are very rich. We would like to do an unbiased classification of shape and dynamics to identify discrete clusters or continua. We'd like to discover new correlated patterns, test their relevance, and if we set up a pipeline for extraction, integration, analysis, we can use it for other things we study, and each movement we study has a parallel in humans, and we believe that such an analysis can help us understand how our body axis is straight, how our organs are positioned, and why some of these disorders, like open neural tubes and cleft lips happen, and why sometimes wounds don't heal very well or cancer spread. So that's broadly all